Hey, what's up guys, Mashin here, come back with a brand new video for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about the potential updates on the horizon, including what's guaranteed, what's probably guaranteed, and what's a little bit further away. First up here, we're going to be talking about the updates that are pretty much guaranteed after a quick word from our sponsor, SkinsMonkey. The sponsor for today's video is SkinsMonkey. Now, SkinsMonkey is the quickest, easiest, and most importantly, safest way to go ahead and trade your CSGO skins. Now, SkinsMonkey is super easy to use. You just have to take your item, take the item you want, and just go ahead, apply code Master Shiny to get your free $5 if it's your first trade, and just click trade. And if you've got no money to spend right now, they've got two ways for you to get some. First is just heading over and topping up. Make sure to use code Master Shiny for a free 5% there, and they've also got the freebies section where you can go ahead and enter free raffles that happen every single day. And as always, thank you so much, SkinsMonkey. Make sure you're using the top link in the description to claim your free $5 today. Now, starting off with the things that are guaranteed, the first one that obviously comes to mind for me personally is that Paris Major. Now, this one, there's not a whole ton we can talk about because, be completely honest, there's probably going to be a pretty significant overlap between what we saw in Rio and the Paris Major. Valve isn't known for making any extravagant decision making when it comes to major capsules and the major items that come out. The biggest thing we saw as of recently was those Stockholm patch packs, which just didn't return. But talking about the Paris Major here, there is one interesting caveat that I would say is probably going to be the most interesting thing to come with that, and that's the Anubis collection. Now, if you don't remember, Anubis is now in the active duty or active rotation for maps in CSGO, which means it's going to have a collection to come along with it, which either has to come before the actual Paris Major or when the Paris Major items are released, because it's going to have a souvenir package because the map is going to be played at the professional level during a major, which is going to be very interesting to see what Valve does with this, which is one of the reasons why a lot of people thought there was going to be an operation beforehand, because they saw this Anubis collection come out and thought that guaranteed an operation when it just didn't. And I think that's something that's quite obvious at this point. We're most likely not going to receive an operation between now and the Paris Major. It just does not make sense from Valve's perspective because this is not the greatest time for them to release it, and we're going to be talking about that in just a quick minute. Now, talking about a release date for Paris, we do have a specific date that I'm going to say it is, and we've also got some pretty empirical data to go along with it. The first thing I want to show is these are all of the past times that was between the sticker release and the actual major starting. It's not very big. If you want to look at it, it's maybe around a week. This does not include Rio, and when we look at Rio, we can take my video that I uploaded and look at the actual start date for Rio and learn that it was about 10 days there, meaning that it's probably going to be around 7 to 10 days, at least in my opinion. We combine that with the start date for Paris, which we know is May 8th, and in my opinion, we're probably going to see an update along the lines of the entirety of the Paris stuff, maybe April 29th, April 30th, but then we run into the issue that that is a weekend, so in my opinion, I'm going to go with May the 2nd, even though it's a little bit on the shorter side. Unless they want to release it before that weekend, it does not work out super well for the dates, but that's not really the most important thing. After that, we've got the next case, which is something I'm going to say is pretty much guaranteed, because that's one of the things that CSGO is dependent on, is these brand new cases. It brings interest to the game, and we just had the Revolution case not too long ago, which means the case is definitely not something that's going to be considerably close, but it's definitely something that's going to happen. Now, when we're talking about a case here, we do have some pretty interesting data that I've never mentioned before. This is the spreadsheet that's going to be linked down in the description if you ever want to check it out. A lot of interesting things over there. As you can see, the estimated case for this is the Sunday, June 25th, 2023. Obviously, it's estimation, so it's not super accurate, but I would say, honestly, I think we're probably going to see it after that. I don't think there's a large incentive for Valve to add cases. At least they've proven that, at least at this point, and therefore I don't really see them adding a case, because we can almost guarantee that the Paris major items are probably going to be on sale during that time. If we look at past sales for major items, we can see there is a significant amount of time Valve likes to keep them in the shop. Therefore, they're probably not going to release a case when they have those items in the shop, and I would say the next case is possible to come when those items get removed from the shop, which whenever that will be. Talking about the most interesting thing of the video though, and that's a potential operation. Now, we do have a lot of data to go along with this, surprisingly. Now, this is a very speculative subject if you want to be just taking the route of, I think an operation should be here or there, but we do have some specific evidence to go along with it. Heading back to the spreadsheet here, we can see the CSGO map rotations, which doesn't seem like a very important thing, but it's actually the most important thing, at least in my opinion. If we want to look at this, you can see there's some things highlighted in yellow, and if you can't recognize it already, that's the update, the map rotation rotations were attached to that we saw in operation. You can see here we had Riptide, and then we had Broken Fang, and then we had Shattered Web. This is very important because I want you to look at the days since column. That's basically the amount of days since that update was released beforehand. So we can see 142 days is the gap between May 3rd and September 22nd. This is important because if we want to look at these numbers, we can see that none of these updates were rushed. We didn't see a map rotation change of like 50 or 60 days, which is very important because that helps us narrow down specifically when a potential operation could be coming. Now, there is some important things to note. Obviously, this is all estimations when we're looking at future data. The past data is obviously past data, so it's pretty set in stone. But I want to point out a couple things. If we want to look at the first potential map rotation, it's probably going to be happening around the end of April to the start of May. I, in my opinion, think that's probably going to be the update where the Paris major items are added. I think that just works out very well in the timeline, and I don't really see a specific reason why they wouldn't. It just works out well. But we can take that date of potentially the end of April, add about 4 or 5 months, and we're getting into the September, which is probably when that next map rotation is going to happen, which is potentially when that operation could come. Obviously, that's quite speculative, but it is important to note that if we want to look at the distribution right here, the majority of the time we are seeing Valve go ahead and update the brand new maps on a regular basis around that 130-day mark. This is a bell curve if you don't understand. So there is a pretty significant chance that I would say we could potentially see an operation with that update. Otherwise, if we don't, it's going to be a very interesting situation. And one small thing I do want to point out, they have their own operations tab under this spreadsheet, but I don't really like it because it's just kind of speculative more than actually giving any data. It's got its estimation of when they thought the operation was going to be and so forth. If you want to check it out, obviously links in the description. I don't want to really dwell on it though. And then the last thing we're going to be talking about is Source 2. Source 2 is a very interesting subject. We've seen lots of people go ahead and say that Source 2 has been released or whatever the heck they talk about. A lot of people have talked about Source 2 in CSGO for a long time. I mean, there's not many subjects in CSGO. You can go back 5, 6, 7 years and find people talking about the same exact thing we're talking about today. Source 2 is probably the only one. Now, in my opinion, I don't really know what Source 2 is going to bring with the game, so I can't really give too much actual dialogue here. Out of everything on this list, I would say Source 2 is the biggest thing I would try and encourage you to just ignore at this point. Source 2 is not going to negatively impact the game, most likely. Obviously, there is the small off chance Valve hurts everything, but they're probably not going to negatively impact the game with Source 2, and therefore it can only be viewed as a net positive, but it's been viewed as a net positive for the past 8-10 years. Now, there has been some new developments as of recently, and it's definitely something I think is probably on the way, but I can't overall give you an opinion about it one way or another when it comes to a release date. But that's pretty much all I have for today. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.